What's up guys? Attack on Titan chapter 109 is here. And what happened this time? Well, not much. Mainly it was just Gabi and Falco and a lot of confusion, but it was actually pretty good. No Eren though. A no EMA family meeting to discuss his naughty behavior. But hopefully we'll get to see that in the next chapter. In the meantime, before we go any further, I want to give you fair warning that these videos are going to contain spoilers. So if you haven't read the latest chapter, then what are you doing with your life? Seriously though, if you don't want spoilers, you might want to click on something else. If you're all caught up though, then let's get to it. Alright, chapter 109. So, before we get into it, I want to be honest with you guys about something, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels this way. In fact, I know there are people out there who have been feeling this way for a while. So let me know in the comments if you agree. Does anyone else feel like Attack on Titan is getting unnecessarily complicated? I mean, I'm sure that Isayama knows what he's doing with this, I hope. It's just gotten to a point where there are so many characters and so many side plots now that we're following. It really is starting to feel kind of like Game of Thrones. Not that I don't like stories with a lot of characters, but it began focused on Eren, Armin, and Mikasa. And stories always feel a little weird when the focus shifts to something else it didn't start with. Nowadays, Attack on Titan feels like it's kind of all over the place. And the more characters are, the more complicated the story becomes. Not that Attack on Titan wasn't already complicated to begin with, but it's always had a specific theme. And the theme is the question of moral ambiguity. Because of that, however, this change in perspective actually makes sense in a way. Eren's journey kind of reflects how our moral view of the world changes as we get older. Of course, this doesn't happen for everybody, but for many people, we begin life kind of believing that the world is black and white. Part of this is because it's what we are taught, and another is because it's simply easier to see the world that way, in this very simple, dualist manner. We deal with moral dilemmas in our own lives, and as we get older, those dilemmas become more and more complicated and difficult to choose. But with each choice that we make, we shape who we are, the world around us, and our vision of reality. And along the way, we begin to learn that things aren't as black and white as we first believed. Eren also started out life seeing the world as very black and white, and was determined to be the person who saved humanity, the good guy, the hero of the story. But now that Eren is older, he's had to learn the harsh reality, a reality that Armin was already pretty much aware of, at least by the end of Season 1, that there's no such thing as good guys and bad guys, and that simple black and white reality he believed in was actually more of a splotchy, uneven, chaotic mess of gray. This is also something that Gabi is currently going through right now, or will be very soon, as we will see in this chapter. So why don't we go ahead and get into it. Okay, so in this chapter, we begin with Gabi and Falco arriving at a ranch where they're invited in for breakfast. Gabi isn't too keen on the idea, of course. She wants to keep running and expresses that she, quote, can't have meals with devils. When they head inside, it is confirmed. It is indeed Sasha's home that they were headed to, and as we will see in a little bit, this girl is in fact the one she saved in Season 2. Her father asks them why they ran away, and Falco lies to him of course, telling him that their names are Ben and Mia, and that they are siblings who ran away from home. One thing that's interesting to note here is that Gabi recognizes their accents as Southern Marleyan dialect. We already know that Marley and Eldia speak the same language, but there are differences in their accents and in the written version of the language. So the fact that Gabi recognizes a specific dialect is pretty interesting. It just goes to show that Eldia really isn't too far removed from Marley. So Falco then literally begs the man to stay, offering to do any work that needs to be done. And Sasha's father, who seems like a pretty cool dude, says sure, and that kids aren't supposed to bow. He then welcomes them into their home, and tells them that they can stay as long as they want. Falco, clearly surprised, thanks him, and the two sit down at the table. Sasha's mother, Lisa, sets a bowl down in front of Gabi, and pats her on the head. She suddenly goes, eek, and slaps her hand away. Everyone just kind of looks at Gabi for a moment, and Sasha's parents simply assume Gabi has been through something very traumatic, which she has been, but we all know that's not why she slapped this woman's hand away. Falco tries to take the focus off of Gabi by speaking loudly and enthusiastically eating his meal, and everything is super awkward. Shaking, Gabi finally takes a bite, and then we cut to the next scene. Here we see Kiyomi and Zachary at the harbor. It appears that some people on Paradis were aware of Eren's plan to attack Marley, or were maybe even in on it. We already know Kiyomi was involved somehow because we saw her walking away from the festival suspiciously right before the attack happened. Zachary, you sneaky, twisted, crazy bastard, what the fuck are you up to? Some interesting dialogue is exchanged here. Kiyomi says something about how the voluntary soldier wasn't the first opponent. I'm not really sure what that means, so I'm just gonna wait for the official translation to try to figure it out. But Zachary tells her to please come again to the most dangerous island in the world, to which Kiyomi replies, yes, since our objective this time is to see that danger ourselves. Whoa. Is she referring to the rumbling? It looks like she is. It seems like there are not just people who want to use the rumbling as a defense mechanism to any possible attacks, but also people who just plain want to make it happen. And of course there are going to be people out there who want to take advantage of this power. I'm sure Hizuto and Paradis would gain a lot from simply wiping out everybody else off the planet. I mean, if they did that, they'd pretty much be the only ones left, so the whole world would pretty much be theirs. We then see an aircraft under a sheet. Kiyomi tells Zachary that it's the first airship in the world that will use iceburst stone as fuel, that unique resource found only on Paradis. And this aircraft, it sounds like, is somehow going to help them use the rumbling. Are they going to use it to try to get Eren and Zeke together somehow? Fly it over Marley for Zeke to shout and turn a bunch of Eldians into Titans? Who knows? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. On the next page, we see Hanji surrounded by a group of people who want to know what's going on. It looks like some reporters and also the Reeves son, who, as we just saw in season 3, took over the Reeves company after his father was murdered by Kenny. It looks like a bunch of information has been leaked to the public that the Survey Corps didn't want getting out, like that Eren and the volunteer soldiers have been arrested. It also appears that everyone who came back to Shingeki district is being moved out again. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've heard about this yet. So why clear out Shingeki district? Could they be planning on moving Eren there, to have their little EMA talk there? Or maybe they're trying to evacuate everyone because that's the most likely place Marley will attack first. As Hanji weaves her way through the crowd, one of the journalists points out Hanji's change in stance and letting the truth be known to all. Reeves asks her if he can trust her, to which she doesn't give him a very confident reply, saying it's all for the sake of the Eldian people. She enters a courtroom, and here we find the leakers. And lo and behold, guess who was behind it? Our best buddy, the Prince of fucking Darkness himself, Flock. He proclaims that he did it in order to free Eren from confinement, stating that Eren did nothing wrong. Did you really just have to do that, Flock? Did you really just have to meme? Why you gotta go meme like that, Flock? Why? So they have a brief argument about the attack, and then the conversation ends by Flock declaring that Eren is the true leader of Eldia. That is a very interesting statement. It seems that Eren is beginning to achieve some level of godliness in the eyes of some of the public, including Flock, which is interesting, because Flock and Eren were quite at odds during the Serum Bowl, but now that Eren seems to be leaning far off to the Eldia first side, looks like they're bros now. Anyway, Hanji orders them to be locked up, and as they're taken away, Hanji flashes back to a moment with Sanes. That moment when he told her, the stage always needs someone in this role. When one actor leaves, another jumps in to take his place. Good luck, Hanji. I guess she must be realizing that she's essentially taken on the same role as Sanes did back then, trying to keep information secret in order to prevent everything from falling apart, no matter what the cost. That must be a pretty tough pill to swallow. She raises her hands into the air in frustration, then looks like she's about to collapse before she gets up and says that there's something else she needs to attend to. In the next scene, we see Mikasa talking to the girl she was just sent to put in a cell, and as it turns out, this girl is the same girl Mikasa saved during the Battle of Trost. Wow, what another freaky-ass coincidence. Well, maybe not that much of a coincidence. She tells her that ever since Mikasa saved her that day, she's, quote, wanted to be near her. Well, looks like Mikasa's got herself a fangirl. She keeps trying to talk to her and Mikasa pretty much just tells her to shut up and walks away. Louise gives her a salute before she leaves, and then Mikasa seems to experience the same strange thing with her head that she did the day Eren's mother died. She then has a brief flashback of Eren stabbing that grown man in the chest over and over again. Her head throbs as she recalls the memory, and I can only imagine what she must be feeling. Thinking back to this, after all that's happened now, we know Mikasa became kind of obsessed with Eren after after he saved her life. For a long time, she looked back at that moment when he wrapped a scarf around her with warmth and appreciation. But in this instance, she also began to think about what happened before that. The horror and death that was caused by Eren's hand. I remember when I first watched this in the anime, I was so taken aback by the fact that a 9-year-old kid killed 2 grown men, I wasn't even sure what to think about it. But the scene definitely says a lot about Eren's character and was definitely foreshadowing something. I always wondered if it would come back around into play, and it looks like it has. So then we switch back to Gabi and Falco. Gabi has an embarrassing slapstick moment and tries to blame it on the devils. She again says she wants to leave, but Falco thinks that they should stay behind and wait to be rescued. He also thinks to himself that it's probably not the best time to tell her he's the one who sent Eren's letters. Yeah, probably not a good idea. So then Kaya, the girl Sasha saved before, comes to bring them some lunch. They talk while they eat and Kaya tells them about the Queen's orders to gather orphans at this ranch to give them a place to live. Next, Gabi starts running her fucking mouth and would have probably given away the fact that they were from Marley if Kaya hadn't already overheard them in the woods. Gabi, of course, just assumes that the entire world believes the same thing. Even a country that's been cut off from everybody else over the past 100 years. Smart kid. I find this scene really kind of funny. The way Gabi's freaking out and literally everybody else around her are just chill. Even Kaya is cool as a cucumber no matter what Gabi says, up until they get to her old house. But we'll get to that in a moment. Anyway, Gabi picks up a pitchfork and tries to attack her. Okay. I feel like I must be one of the last people to say this, but after trying to kill this girl again, after she took them in even though she already knew they were from Marley, I'm getting a little bit sick of Gabi. Yeah, I kinda hope she dies soon. Please get trampled by a horse or something already. Even Flock is less annoying than you now. At least he's got a rational argument for being a dick. So Falco stops her and they have a bit of a struggle. A couple of other kids ask why they're fighting and Kaya covers for them, telling them that Mia is jealous because she's getting too friendly with her brother. After that, Kaya shows them her old house, where Sasha saved her life, and tells them what happened there. Kaya then asks them what her mother did to deserve such a horrifying death, and we get this great little back and forth where Gabi keeps spewing all this Marleyan propaganda, and Kaya keeps shooting her down with the simplest of questions, playing straight up hardball, and I don't think she even realizes it. She challenges Gabi's beliefs until she's left completely speechless. Falco then tears up and tells her it was a mission to test Paradis's strength, and tells her that her mother did nothing wrong. Wow, did we just meme twice in this chapter? Is Isayama doing that on purpose, or are our translators just having fun? Well anyway, Kaya has to take a moment, and then she tells Ben, thank you for letting her know, and that he doesn't need to apologize just because he was born in Marley. As they leave, Falco asks Kaya how she survived. She tells them about how Sasha saved her life, though she doesn't mention her name. She then says that if she's still alive, she would have never abandoned them, as she never abandoned her. After that, she offers to bring them to where some other Marleyans are. When Gabi asks her in disbelief why she would do that, Kaya replies by telling her, I want to be like Sasha. So, not a bad chapter in my opinion. I'm sure there are probably more than a few people who are kinda disappointed by this chapter because it focuses so much on Gabi, but Kaya said a lot of things to her that I was really hoping somebody would say to her, so I'm happy about that. Gabi needs to have her beliefs challenged so she can begin to understand the truth. Whether she knows it or not, Kaya may have just done Gabi a huge favor, creating the first big cracks in that veil of illusion she's steeped in. As for Eren and the leaked information, I suppose we now know the big role Flock is supposed to be playing moving forward. When we saw him shouting about victory for Ildi on the blimp, the first thing that popped into my mind that Flock was going to become the equivalent of some kind of cult leader. The cult of Eren Yeager. Kinda got a ring to it, actually. Then, of course, we've got that bit where Kiyomi and Zachary were apparently involved in Eren's attack on Marley as well. So it looks like Eren hasn't really been acting on his own at all. We all kinda knew Zeke was involved, but it looks like it's not just him. Yelena, Flock, Kiyomi, and Zachary all seem to be involved somehow as well, or at least in the loop. Not to mention, they both seem pretty determined to eventually use the rumbling, whether they actually need to or not. But of course, anytime there is great power and opportunity, there's someone who wants to abuse abuse it. And Hizudu, while still respected around the world, is also somewhat of a misfit for its past ties with the Eldian Empire. So it kind of makes sense that they don't care so much about what happens to the rest of the world. Interesting stuff. So, here's a few questions for you guys. Now that we've seen Gabi's beliefs be challenged, what do you think is next for our misplaced duo? They did mention ZEKE again in this chapter and the fact that he's close by, so I wonder if they will find him at some point. Also, what do you think is going to happen with this leaked information problem? Is Flock going to start his own cult? Are Yelena and the other people locked up going to escape and repeat history by holding a coup? And also, tell me what you think they're going to use that Iceburst Stone airship for. Let me know in the comments, and tell me what you thought of this chapter as well. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, comment, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. Visit me on Facebook and Twitter, and check out my Patreon if you want to help support this channel. Thanks again so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace.